Dear friends, today we have with us senior executive editor and veteran journalist Aditya Raj Kaul, and we are here today to talk about the Middle East conflict, which is now over a month old. Aditya, thank you so much for joining us today. Now, you have been covering this conflict from the ground, and every day there is some or the other bizarre development that happens. So, what's the latest that's going on?
Well, firstly, thank you, Pallavi, for having me here for the discussion. I was an accidental journalist who was, in fact, in Israel while the war actually began. I was covering Prime Minister Modi's visit, and I had packed only for 3 days. And while I was there, and the moment I was about to take my return flight to India from the Ben Gurion airport in Tel Aviv, the sirens started buzzing, and that was clearly the beginning of the war. And I got stuck there. And firstly, obviously, reluctantly, but then I managed to stay there for a month. And I've just returned from Israel, and it's been clearly a little more than a month of the war in the Middle East. And nobody had expected that this will turn into an endless war. I think the least of all, Donald Trump and his administration had not expected that this will continue like this. But if we go by the experts or the foreign policy wonks or those who have observed the Russia Ukraine war over the last 4 years, they would tell you that it's very easy to enter a war, but it is very difficult to end it. That's what we are witnessing in the Middle East as well. I think one thing that the Trump administration had not taken into consideration in detail was the kind of arsenal that Iran had already. We see Donald Trump continuously talking about how they are trying to obliterate completely Iranian government, the Iranian regime that they say, and of course the IRGC, which is the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. But let's remember that Iran knew that something of this will happen, and that's why they've been planning for this for more than 2 decades or perhaps 3 decades. And they had a lot of arsenal, a lot of missiles in their kitty, a lot of drones as well. And they had been just trying to build up their capacity, capability for years together for this day. And that's why we are seeing a long war that is shaping across the Middle East. Another thing that the Trump administration had not calculated well was the kind of response that will happen. Now, this response is not only against Israel or the US bases. We are seeing attacks happening across the Middle East against several countries that have given US base. Now, Iran might say that their attack is against the US base or US embassy or US consulate or the US logistical centers. But in reality, there are several civilian areas that have been attacked. There are a lot of critical infrastructure, including oil refineries, that have been attacked. There are also a lot of ships, vessels, oil tankers that have come under attack. And that's why this is a very, very critical moment in global history as well. In what shape does this take?
Yeah.
Trump says that the Strait of Hormuz is completely blocked right now. They do not allow the US, Europe, or European or the Israeli ships to pass through. Others are being asked to pay a certain toll in yuan, and then they are allowed to pass through. So, in a way, Iran has become the a kind of a watchdog or a kind of a police checkpost at the Strait of Hormuz, where they only allow those who they like and others are denied entry or exit from that entire location. And that's why a lot of ships are stranded there. Now, many may question Iran's approach in this, but there would be others who would say that if United States can actually change the international rules-based order by doing whatever they want to, whenever they want to, like what they did in Venezuela by kidnapping a sitting president. Now, there might be people who say he was a criminal, he was a drug lord, there were a lot of charges against him. But in reality, of course, United States has violated the sovereignty of a country and entered, just like they did in Iraq, just like they did in Afghanistan. And there has been a huge embarrassment that they have faced both in Iraq and Afghanistan in the past 2 to 3 decades. So here as well, the question really is that will US really come out victorious, or will US will have to, be forced to have a negotiated kind of a settlement. As of now, it does seem like that there will be some kind of a negotiated settlement. Uh, Many had predicted that this is a war of attrition. Whichever side gets, the arsenal or the missiles run out, will be, the loser in this entire battle. But currently, I think Iran has retaliated in such a manner that it has shocked the world completely. And of course, Iran doesn't have many partners. US has several partners. So, in a way, what has happened here is that instead of a open victory for US or Israel in this particular case, uh, Iran has been able to completely divide the Western world. One, NATO's destruction or NATO's, obliteration seems to be almost complete, with Donald Trump almost attacking UK as well as France and saying that they have not helped him in this war against Iran, and now he will not give oil to France and UK. He will not give any kind of a help strategically to France and UK. So it does seem like that the entire diplomacy, the entire rules based order, the entire Western world currently is under tremendous shock. As if the Russia Ukraine conflict wasn't enough. And now we have a Middle East conflict which has completely changed the way we look at the world and the diplomacy play out.
Yeah. Now, Aditya, you mentioned the Iraq and Afghanistan war, and it's important to note here that, see, American power has been in decline in the last 20 years, even though it's the only hyper power, so to speak, today. But it is not in a position to kind of invade a country, so to speak. It can maybe do a raid like in Venezuela. Maybe it can send some Marines to, maybe capture Hormuz Islands, and, it can do it in bits and pieces, but its power is nothing compared to what it was 20 or 30 years ago. And in Iran, you have a situation where the IRGC is not really reporting to the government because they report to the Ayatollah, and that the status is not clear about Mujtaba Khamenei, where he is or how he is doing. And so this becomes a really dangerous mix, because then you have the Gulf countries that are involved as well. So going forward, someone will have to back down. I mean, if it goes on longer, now obviously America, Israel, and even the Gulf, I mean, there's only so much Iran can do before it gets obliterated, or it could get obliterated, but it has capacity to do real damage. Iran also has a capacity to retaliate in a manner that it can cause real economic shocks all across the world. So going forward, is there any indication of what might happen, or it's really very, very unpredictable? Like nobody really knows what the end game here is.
Well, you're absolutely right. It's completely unpredictable, and we are living in a deeply unpredictable world. We do not know what will happen next. And that's why, in this particular case, there are two or three things that are for certain. One, that the ultimate objective, now, Trump might say that their objective was to completely, get rid of the uranium, enrichment. He might say that the ultimate objective was to completely destroy the Iranian Navy, Air Force. But let's remember, the ultimate objective for both US and Israel in this war, or Operation Epic Fury as well as Roaring Lion, was to change the regime. Let's
Sure.
face it.
Yeah.
But now they are changing goalposts completely. They're saying that they have made IRGC incapable. They've tried to destroy the manufacturing centers of missiles and drones. They're trying to each day say that victory over the Iranian Navy. Let's face it, Iran didn't have a very strong navy in any case. They
Yeah.
have a few ships here and there. That isn't called a navy, and that can certainly not be compared with the kind of navy that US has. So, secondly, what has happened here is that one Ayatollah has been replaced with another. So, is this really a victory for US? Anybody can take a guess. Second, what are the objectives of Israel also, apart from the change in the regime that has been spoken about ad nauseum? Israel, in this case, wanted security guarantees for itself. That means that in the last 3 years, we've seen since the terror attack on 7th October 2023, there has been a complete focused approach by Israel, IDF, Mossad, and other parts of the Israeli government. Their first objective was to completely annihilate Hamas from Gaza. Their second objective was to target Hezbollah in Lebanon and completely annihilate Hezbollah from Lebanon, southern Lebanon, and Beirut and other areas. Third, and the main objective was to actually go after Iran and the Ayatollah and try to see as much as destruction is possible in Iran, so that in the next 5, 10, or 15 or 20 years, Iran is not in a position to, in fact, jostle the same kind of courage with which the Hamas or others with the support did the 7th October terror attack. I think this has been the overall objective of Israel. Now, what happened in Hamas area of Gaza? They tried to kill the entire leadership. I think 90 to 95% of Hamas has been completely wiped out. And now they have created a buffer zone in Gaza where they say that international stabilization force will come, but the buffer zone will be manned by the IDF. They will do something similar in Lebanon also. They've already launched a kind of a ground offensive, not a full scale offensive, but a limited land is being captured to create a buffer zone so that Hezbollah is not able to, target again. And while Hezbollah is still active, there are still some parts of Lebanon where Hezbollah is still there. But there is kind of a back channel dialogue that is underway between Lebanon and Israel, and perhaps there are other countries that could be mediating as well. We had an offer coming in from the French President Macron as well. So I think the ultimate objective right now for Israel is do similar to what happened in Gaza with Lebanon to completely wipe them out, to not have any kind of a space for Hezbollah again. Because I think the new government in Lebanon seems to be at the same page with Israel. They do not want to give any kind of space to Hezbollah. At least that's what they say. And that's why they seem to have some kind of a tacit understanding with the Netanyahu government in Israel. And third and final, Iran. Now, I've spoken to a lot of diplomats in the last 3 years from Israel who said that their intelligence says that it is very difficult to do a regime change in Iran. So Israel was aware that a regime change will not be possible. And yet, Israel convinced Donald Trump to go ahead with the operation. You would remember in June last year, Pallavi, when the 12-day war happened between Iran and Israel.
Yeah.
At that time, Trump had said that he will not interfere, he will not intervene, and he will not join the war. Even though he did send his B-2 bombers to send a kind of a message to Ishfan in Iran, where the nuclear enrichment is happening. But now Trump was convinced enough to join the war because perhaps he was made to believe that this will not be an endless war and Trump will emerge victorious and have a strategic victory all across the region. But it does seem like an endless war. I don't think that the end game is clear at this point in time. But one thing is very clear: it is not possible and it is impractical to think that there will be a regime change when the kind of protests that we have seen against the regime in Iran, those protesters haven't come out. It does also make us reflect and think that why has this happened? Is this because the Iranians or the Persian people, have nationality above everything else? That means when they come under attack, and they might be attacks in their favor or whatever, but they are under attack. And that's why it does seem that either there is a large chunk of population that is upset, angry, and they are with the Iranian government, and there are others who are silently observing it and do not want to take a chance to really come out and protest because they do not have a leader right now. There is no democratic substitute to the Ayatollah or the Iranian government at this particular stage. So I think there would be some kind of a negotiated settlement because a ground offensive for US seems very, very unlikely right now. With 50,000 soldiers or even more, I don't think they will be able to, face 1 million people when Iran has a strategic edge, and that could lead to several casualties for US.
Yeah. No, and even in Iran, I mean, one of the factors could simply be because the regime has been so brutal in the past that,
Yes.
unless people know that there is a guarantee that there is going to be a regime change, I think they don't want to expose themselves. I mean, that could also be a factor. Just lastly, Aditya, this brings me back to Operation Sindoor because it is my opinion that that is the most successful military campaign of the 21st century, where India was able to strategically decimate Pakistan in such a manner that they it had to do a de facto surrender in 3 days and requested a ceasefire, which India because given its civilizational ethos, India agreed to the ceasefire as well after it was requested. Is there a lesson there? I mean, apart from the fact that it was kind of a reflection of India's real hard power now in the Committee of Nations, but is there a lesson for other countries also to learn there, that do not enter a conflict unless you are at least to some degree you have a certainty as to what is the outcome and what is the objective? Now, any war, as you mentioned, that it's easy to enter a war or a conflict and difficult to extract yourself out of it, but there should at least be a certain degree of clarity what your political objectives are or what your overall objectives are? Is there a lesson to be learned for other countries, including what's happening right now?
Oh, absolutely, Pallavi. You're bang on when you say that, India doesn't enter a war just to show its hegemony or just to, ego massage itself or try to threaten a weaker power in this or any case. What India does believe in is that, just like Prime Minister has been reiterating over the last 4 years, that this is not an era of war and solutions cannot be found in the battlefield. But if India faces terrorism, and in or any country for that matter faces terrorism, India condemns it. I think when the 7th October terror attacks happened in Israel, India was the first one to condemn it and speak to Netanyahu. That's what Prime Minister Modi did. And India at the same time has been given humanitarian aid to people of Gaza, to people of Palestine, and India believes in a two state solution. I mean, that's been a long stated position for a very, very long time. And in any case, even in the Russia Ukraine war, India maintained that position, even though we had tremendous pressure coming in from US, from Europe, a lot of lectures also coming against India on democracy, etc. So India has faced it all, but India has stood with strategic autonomy, saying that we'll do whatever is beneficial for our own people and whatever is in our national interest. So I think what India has done is a great lesson in geopolitics, in global diplomacy, and in peace as well. Because India believes in peace. India is never an initiator of a conflict or provocative militarily or otherwise. But as I said, Operation Sindoor has been a very significant and strategic success.
You're dealing with an American president that really is making one bizarre statement after the other. And just to conclude, what do you make of his statement regarding Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince? I mean, he made like really some obnoxious comments, which one cannot probably even say in a broadcast. Just to conclude, what is really going on here?
Firstly, Trump has never stood by his statement. He'll be the first to put you under the bus if he wants to, and if he thinks that's the right thing to do at any point in time. One thing that I would firstly give you an example and then respond to your question is earlier this year and last year as well, Trump was after India, saying that you need to stop buying Russian oil, the crude oil that you then later sell off to Europe and many other countries. And now, in midst of this war, it is the same Donald Trump, it is the same Trump administration that is requesting, and I would go to the extent of begging India to buy the same Russian oil and actually sell off to Europe and several other countries just to stabilize the oil prices. Now, imagine what has happened. This is almost instant karma, which is acting in similar fashion. So, obviously, his statements on the Saudi prince was, completely atrocious. And but I wonder what the position of Middle East would be in months to come. I think it's a huge wake up call, particularly for UAE. I think more than US and more than Israel, UAE has suffered tremendously, both economically and in terms of the attacks that have happened, the drone attacks, the missile attacks that are still ongoing. I think a lot of people have already left UAE, many Europeans, many people from other countries as well. And there are security guards taking care of their properties, their businesses right now in UAE. So the wake up call really is that how do you protect and have kind of a coalition where you can give kind of a deterrence? As of now, it doesn't seem like that US or even Israel is in a position to protect UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi, and the critical infrastructure that they have right now. I think UAE was too much focused towards their business, their tourism, to bring in people from all across the globe to have golden visas, etc. But they did not take seriously an alarming situation like this. I think never ever would the leadership of UAE have imagined or dreamt that they will be in such a spotlight where UAE will become a flashpoint for Iran to target US and Israeli interests. I think Israel hasn't suffered so much, honestly, because I spent a month there and I saw people roaming around freely. But I got calls from people across UAE in fear because they don't even have bomb shelters. So they get a warning and they do not know what to do. They can just go back to their home or their office and take shelter there. So I think the reality is that in a way, now the entire Middle East will be looking towards US and Israel. One, to take their air defense and make it more strong. To build in their arsenal in terms of getting more, missiles, drones, and also looking towards US and Israel towards new technology, new emerging technology, threat assessment system, radars. I don't know what all. My assessment and my understanding is, and my top sources have told me, that already an Israeli team is in UAE right now, which is helping them with countering, not through missiles, etc., but a national alarm system, and how to actually have that in place, because Israel has it for years together. So I think we are looking towards a new world. We are looking towards a new Middle East, and I really wonder what will happen now. I think the Palestinian cause has taken a back seat. Uh, all other things have taken a back seat, and now the prime focus is not just Iran, but the Strait of Hormuz. How to actually, make it function, have a smooth Strait of Hormuz. Today, Trump says that it will open automatically. I wonder how, because Iran is not relenting, and doesn't
Right.
seem that the kind of attacks that US has done or continues to do will make any difference.
Yeah, and yeah, just to conclude, once again, the phenomenal air defense system of India in Operation Sindoor. I mean, that's another very important thing to take note of. And I've
Yes.
also argued that perhaps it's time for a lot of middle powers like Australia, Canada, UAE, South Korea to actually have an alliance with India, which is the only non-hegemonic superpower now in the world. I mean, because you only have America, Russia, China, and India, and so far, and and it's expected that India will always remain a non-hegemonic superpower because of our civilizational ethos.
Lastly, I would just say that your concluding remarks are bang on. For India, one may not say this, but for India, I think this is a win-win situation. A lot of democracies across the globe look towards India now, what India's position would be, and how India takes the things forward. Because on one hand, we have US, then we have Russia, and then we have China. In current geopolitical world, I don't think any of the countries can trust either US, Russia, or China. So I think they look towards India, and India speaks about world as one family, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and that will perhaps be the future.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Aditya. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Pallavi.